Atelier Wen are back, and they have made some significant upgrades to their most popular watch, the Perception. This is the version 3. However, the price has not increased significantly, and the movement on this watch has a design that I've never seen before, and it is incredible. You're going to be blown away. So, like I said, I have one hands-on. Let's flip the camera and take a look at the newest Perception, the version 3 from Atelier Wen. When it comes to the micro-independent brand space, Atelier Wen are one of those brands that are making some big waves. They make Chinese-made watches. There's no secret about that. They are inspired by Chinese art, and a lot of their watches, well, their dials, are handcrafted in China. So this watch gets a hand guilloche dial. It's done on a Rose engine in China. What normally would be a very expensive watch from a Swiss brand, but it's made in China, so this watch costs a pretty good amount of money. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's definitely not expensive for what you're getting. And when you talk about these watches, there is a list of specs that you have to go through. This gets a 904L stainless steel case, bracelet, crown, case back, bezel, the whole entire watch, even this clasp. Now, the clasp is something that I always focus on when I talk about Atelier Wen, because there are brands that cost way more money that don't offer a clasp as good as this watch gets. This button right here, and that is a button, that's their logo. When you press it, it's the micro adjust. So you could micro adjust in and out, very, very easy, very smooth. You could do it on wrist or off wrist. There aren't many brands that offer a clasp at this level, at this price. There aren't many brands that offer a clasp at this level, period. Also, this is version 3 of the Perception, so they have made some other upgrades to this besides the obvious, which is the movement, and we'll talk about the movement in just a few seconds. They now are making this in a micro bead blasted case and bracelet. And then everything, all the edges are polished, and there's a mirror polish against everything, and there's a large line that goes across the case, and the bezel is fully polished. And this is in 904L stainless steel, so you're getting a higher grade of stainless steel. Yes, is that a big deal? Probably not. For most people, you're not going to notice that this is 904L stainless steel. Is it just a talking point? Probably. 316L stainless steel is fine as well, but hey, it's 904L stainless steel. It's slightly harder to work with, slightly more expensive. So there you go. You also get a screwed-in crown, a screwed-in case back, and the case back is now a full case back, a full display case back. You get 100 meters of water resistance. This is actually a pretty thin watch considering you're getting 100 meters of water resistance. Comes in at around 10.2 millimeters thick. That's what I measured with both the front and back sapphire crystals. By the way, both sapphire crystals get like 10 layers of anti-reflective coating. That's the front and the back. And they did it on the back because they want you to see the movement really well, and they want you to see that dial really well. So anti-reflective coating, very, very important. You have applied indices. You have their logo right below the 12 o'clock. It says Atelier Wen. That is it. Nothing else on the dial. You have beautiful hands on here that are filled with lume. I don't think that the second hand gets any lume, but we'll do a lume shot towards the end of the video. It's when you flip over this watch, when you take a look at the movement of this watch, you realize where they are going here. So they recently came out with a much more expensive version of this watch in tantalum. So it was a very heavy watch that had a Girard-Perregaux movement inside. That Girard-Perregaux movement was decorated beautifully. It was a very heavy watch, really cool, and it was around $30,000. When they came out with a third version of this watch, I guess they wanted to do something a little bit more special. Now, the previous movement that was in this watch was a Chinese manufacturer, and I believe it was from the brand Peacock. And Peacock make very high-end Chinese movements. That movement was amazing. Ultra thin, really good looking, actually very nicely decorated. I own watches with that movement where you could actually see it. And it actually is a very good looking movement. I wish they put a full display case back on the older Atelier Wen Perceptions. They didn't. However, now they have. But they have changed the movement. They have put a Piquenier movement inside. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Piquenier are a French brand. So The heritage here is Chinese and French because the owner of the brand is French, and these watches are made in China. So this is sort of a meshing of both worlds. I think that's kind of what they were going for. Piquenier were trying to make their own movement. They hired a bunch of people that worked at Grubel Forsey, and they developed their own in-house movements. And that is what you are looking at right now. Now, this is a little bit more than they are currently making, even for Piquenier. I don't know why they went this far with the movement, and I cannot believe that this watch costs what it costs, considering what they have done to this movement. And I'll go through some of the details here. So, Côtes de Genève, obviously, on the escapement bridge. 3D laser etched inscription on the ratchet return wheel, which you can see, and it looks so cool. When you look at that really closely, it's one of my favorite details, and there are a lot of details to take in on this movement. Black polished screws, there's anglage, that's machine-made anglage. Perlage, there's snailing on the barrel, and that skeletonized rotor gets snailing and frosting. So lots of different finishes going into this movement. But again, that's not the biggest news about this movement. It's the bridges here. The bridges are shaped in a traditional Chinese representation of wind and then filled with a mirror polished aventurine. So this gets inlaid into the bridges aventurine. It is incredible. I have never seen this before. I'm not sure it's ever been done, and I think it looks amazing. And you get to see it from the back. It's going to be very hard for people who buy this watch to not constantly flip it over to look at this movement. It's something very, very, very different. And I'm really happy that they did it, and I'm happy that they went with the Piquenier movement because it kind of keeps with their ethos. And I kind of like the Chinese movements that they used in the past. I actually really like them, but I feel really good about this movement as well. This is a 40 millimeter watch. I measured this at 39.8 millimeters. And again, this is around a 10.3 millimeter thick watch, including both of those sapphire crystals. And then you have around a 46 millimeter lug to lug. It's around 46.5 millimeters. That's at the case. If you measure it on the bracelet does wear like a cuff slightly on these watches. So it's going to measure in much bigger than that, probably in the range of around 51, 52 millimeters. That's going to be a problem for some. For some, it's not going to be a problem at all. It depends on your wrist. If you have a very small wrist, this is going to wear a little bit large. On my wrist today, I have my Seiko SLA. This is a high-end Seiko diver. And every time I get one of these, I am always very impressed. So this is one that I decided to buy because I've always wanted one of these in my collection, and I am never disappointed. The only thing about this watch, and I did not realize this when I bought it, is that it gets recognized as a Rolex all the time. People think it's a Submariner. I'm not sure that's what Seiko were going for, but that's what happens, unfortunately. And there is the perception on my 7.5 inch wrist. You could see, this is just gorgeous. They're coming out with this in 3 different dial colors. This is sort of a greenish blue, aqua blue, green. I don't know what you would call this. And then they're coming out with 2 other colors. I think one is a salmon and one is a deeper blue. And this is sort of the greenish blue. Thin to the wrist. Look at that. It looks really good and really thin on my 7.5 inch wrist. That clasp is amazing. You could adjust that on the fly on wrist, which I love. I could just make that bigger by pressing that button, and that is it. On wrist, you could do that. And that is very convenient. You could just be talking to someone and adjust your watch while you're in conversation. This is a 40 millimeter watch, so it's 39.8 millimeters. I think it actually wears like that size. It wears kind of smaller because it technically is a smaller watch because of these 2 structures on either side of the case. It makes it wear larger, but that measurement is including those 2 things. So it does measure larger than maybe actually is. So I think that's the reason why it wears like a 40 millimeter or 39 millimeter on wrist. And then you have a 46 millimeter lug to lug, which wears like a 52 millimeter lug to lug. And then again, that 10.2 millimeter, 10.3 millimeter thickness. Lume on here is actually excellent. When you see this, It's pretty bright. The hands are very liberally applied with lume. That minute track, which is a Chinese pattern, that is very liberally applied with lume. The only complaint that I have, and you guys know what I'm gonna say, is that there is no lume on the seconds hand. I wish there was a little bit of lume on the seconds hand so you could see that your watch is working in the dark. Other than that, I have no complaints here. This is a dress watch with 100 meters of water resistance in 904L stainless steel, a beautiful customized movement that you really aren't going to see on any other watch, and it is a very high-end looking movement. For the price, that is pretty amazing. The clasp is amazing. You have that extender that is laser engraved. Everything on this is very, very high-end, but the price tag is $4,850. People are going to go crazy in the comments saying that's a lot of money, but name another watch that you can get this level of finishing, this level of dial, a handmade guilloche dial, and this level of movement at this price. If this had a Swiss name on it, it would be far more money. Could you imagine if Omega, or I just name any other Swiss independent brand, if they came out with this and put their name on it, how much it would be? $4,850, I really don't think is a lot of money. Tell me what you guys think down in the comment section below. I want to hear from you guys. I will put a link to this watch down in the description. It is currently up for pre-order. I think this is a limited edition in the beginning, and then they will be a regular run of watches. I think this is I think the first few are numbered. I might be wrong about that, but I will put it down in the comment section if I am wrong, or the description. Tell me what you think down in the comment section below. I want to hear from you guys. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. Thank you for watching this video. I'll catch you guys in the next video.